We have recently discovered some tragic news that occurred 3 years ago. Filipino and Americans have walked 65 to 80 miles in what people are referring to as the Bataan Death March. Supposedly on April 9, 1942, the Bataan Peninsula on the main Philippine island of Luzon was surrendered by the U.S. and taken over by the Japanese.
That's terrible. Is there any information known about how many people were involved or what the conditions were?
Yes. From what we know, there were 75,000 Filipino and American troops that were forced to walk this long journey to prison camps. The conditions were to be brutal, with immense heat and harsh treatment by Japanese troops. One survivor reveals the tragic events that he endured. He states, "On the first day, I saw two things I will never forget. A Filipino man had been beheaded. His body lay on the ground with blood everywhere. His head was a short distance away. Also, there was a dead Filipino woman with her legs spread apart and her dress pulled up over her. She obviously had been raped. These are instances I would like to forget." Another survivor, Lester Tenney, can relate to this pain. He believes it was called a death march not because of how many died. They called it a death march because of the way they died. If you stopped on a road, you were killed. If you had a malaria attack, you were killed. If you had to stop to defecate, they killed you. If you could just not take another step, they killed you. These two soldiers really showed the extremities that the Japanese did to our American troops.
It is so hard to hear. I'm sure we can all agree that we are proud of our troops and feel for their hardships.
You done?
Are you proud to be an American? I am. What a beautiful country we have, with a lot of money and beautiful people. And now we all want to dress like this girl because we just won the war. Of course, we know the history of famous cities in America such as New York City, Chicago. But do we know the true history and the struggles of America in World War II? Here's where you can find out. The island of Midway. This is where American troops fought against the Japanese in World War II, the most recent war. It's a beautiful island that can help you be one with our country and know the true meaning of a proud American. There's a lot of birds there too, but we couldn't get rid of them, so it's okay still. Just don't bother them and they won't attack you. They're kind of nice. But other than that, what a beautiful island it is, and it will teach you what it's like to be a true, proud American.
Moving on to further news, since we're talking about recent events that occurred not even 5 years ago, a famous war that is occurring at this moment is the Pacific War. This war includes the United States imposing an economic sanction on Japan. This war started 4 years ago on December 7th, 1941, when Japan launched an attack on Pearl Harbor.
That seems fairly interesting. I'm sure many people know about this due to the fact that the war is still occurring at this moment. Care to elaborate on this ongoing event?
Sure. Since the United States imposed an economic sanction, in other words, the United States took the decision to harm Japan's economy by limiting their natural resources. Therefore, Japan grew very weak with the shortages of oil and other natural goods. This is when they decided to bomb Pearl Harbor.
How did the U.S. respond to this tragic turn of events? Did it affect Japan in any way?
The United States responded by declaring war on Japan. Yes, this also affected Japan in a rather positive way. Subsequently, Japan had major successes in the Pacific War. Through the years of 1941 and 1942, many islands in the Pacific, including Guam, Wake Island, the Philippines, the Dutch Indies, Hong Kong, and Malaya, fell into Japanese control. The Japanese, until this point, are successfully defending their position in the Chinese mainland. The turning point in the Pacific War was when the United States won the Battle of Midway in June of 1945. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb in the city of Hiroshima. Tens of thousands of people died in the instant explosion, and many more died from radiation exposure. We'll keep you updated as the war progresses, and hopefully it ends soon, sparing the lives of many innocents.
Thanks, Mom, and good evening, America. I have here by my side someone we all should know. His name is General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Sir, it is an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
The pleasure is all mine.
General, the anniversary of one of the most well-known military successes upon us, the invasion of Normandy, otherwise known as D-Day, June 6, 1944. Now that a year has passed, what are your recollections of that day?
Well, as you can imagine, it was quite the undertaking. There were so many obstacles that had to be overcome, one being the weather. We only had 10 days every month that were suitable for the operation. We needed a full moon for illumination of darkness and spring tide. We needed the illumination for navigational landmarks, for the crews of aircraft, gliders, and landing crafts. We needed the spring tide in order to expose defensive obstacles placed by the Germans on the surface.
Was June 6th the day you had originally planned?
Well, I have always said, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. We had planned for the day, D-Day, to be on June 5th, but the weather had other plans. On June 4th, we woke up to conditions which were unsuitable. High wind and seas made it impossible to launch landing crafts from larger ships, and the low clouds would have prevented aircrafts from finding their targets. We almost canceled everything.
But despite these obstacles, the invasion of Normandy was quite the success.
Yes, it was, but victory did not come easily. The invasion started June 6 and lasted until mid-July 1944. By June 30th, over 850,000 men, 148,000 vehicles, and 570,000 tons of supplies had been landed. And by July 4th, 1 million men had been landed.
Well, General Eisenhower, we appreciate your remarkable service. You have served as a 5-star general in the U.S. Army, and you serve as Supreme Commander of Allied Forces. You have proven yourself to be an exceptional leader. To what do you attribute your leadership skills?
An effective leader understands that leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it.
General, would you say that war has been your friend?
I hate war as only a soldier who has lived it can, only as one who has seen its brutality, its futility, and its stupidity.
Well said, sir. Come back tomorrow for more.